Hello everyone. Welcome back. Today, we've got some crucial news you don't want to miss. Let's dive right into the top financial headlines and break down what's happening. We've got some interesting news from Bloomberg titled, "Traders See Gold as a Surefire Bet as Coin Toss Election Looms." With the US elections just around the corner next Tuesday, this is going to have a big impact on global markets. Now, if you're into investing, keep an eye on your wallet and your assets because this market volatility can affect nearly everyone's investments. Some risks might be short-term, while others could stick around for a while. So, it's not just about getting swept up in the political drama of the elections. This year's election is one of the most fiercely contested in modern history, and that's driving a surge into safe haven assets. Gold prices are soaring, and many investors think they'll keep climbing. In fact, gold is on track for its best year since 1979, definitely the undisputed winner of this election cycle. As portfolio manager Mike Bake from Rose Investment puts it, the market loves gold when there's uncertainty, especially with geopolitical issues. That's why holding onto gold ahead of the election makes a lot of sense. But here's a heads up, even after the election, risks could still linger. If there's a dispute over the election results, like lawsuits challenging the outcome, we could see some serious market turbulence. Just look back at the 2008 election when there were recounts that made everyone nervous. The market doesn't really care who wins, it just hates uncertainty. Imagine if over 100 million votes are cast, but we can't figure out who the president is. That would make the situation even more dramatic for onlookers, but for investors, it's a nightmare. With this year's election being so neck and neck, investors are definitely on edge. Trump and his allies are telling supporters they're about to win big, which only cranks up the tension. If things don't go as planned, we might be in for a long legal battle. If Trump's supposed landslide doesn't happen, the fallout could be even messier than what we saw in 2021. Bloomberg points out that some investors are betting on a red wave where Republicans sweep all levels, presidency, House, and Senate. If that happens, they expect the dollar to rise and gold to fall. But interestingly, during Trump's first term in 2016, gold actually dropped in price. So it raises a question, with gold being so hot right now, how does that fit with the narrative of a Republican victory? Bloomberg also notes that this time, people are even more concerned about how close the race is, which might push investors away from betting on the dollar and stocks and instead flock to safe assets. As of Friday, gold was trading around $2,750 an ounce. So, what do you think about all this? Bloomberg has picked up on the rising gold prices, but they haven't really nailed down the market logic behind it. It feels more like a reaction to the current mood, a reflection of risk aversion rather than a solid prediction that gold will definitely go up. From this article, you can really sense the anxiety among investors about the election results. They're not quite sure what different outcomes could mean for the market. Overall, this piece highlights the nervousness in the investment community as we head into such a pivotal moment. Next, let's dive into some important news about the upcoming election, particularly the 3 legal battles happening in Pennsylvania. I shared a thought with you yesterday. If you want to win Pennsylvania, you've got to understand what's at stake in these lawsuits. These cases really highlight the intense competition between the two parties in the state, and they give our channel followers a deeper insight into the election than most other folks get. The media doesn't cover these angles much, but hey, we're here to get into the nitty-gritty. First up, we have a legal case that Bloomberg reported on, titled "Musk Loses Bid to Send Voter Sweepstakes Case to U.S. Court." So what's going on here? A local prosecutor in Pennsylvania is saying that Musk's $1 million daily lottery for voters is against the law. Specifically, it violates state lottery and consumer protection laws. Musk's team wanted to shift the case to federal court, thinking they'd have a better shot there. That's actually allowed in the US. If you think a state court isn't fair, you can ask to move the case to federal court. But things didn't go Musk's way. The federal judge, Gerald Papert, ruled that there was no federal question involved here. The case, which claims Musk's lottery violates state law, got sent back to state court instead. So, next Monday, the state court will hold a hearing on this. It's clear both sides in this election are really going toe-to-toe. Next, Bloomberg reported on another case where the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Republicans regarding missing ballots. This one's a bit complicated. The court decided that mail-in ballots without handwritten dates on the envelopes can't be counted. This ruling could give Trump a boost since it could eliminate thousands of votes. The Republican National Committee is calling it a huge win for election integrity. They're committed to making sure every vote counts, but this ruling means a lot of votes will be thrown out simply because people forgot to write the date on their envelopes. The Democrats, on the other hand, argue that these voters still cast their ballots and it shouldn't be their fault if they missed a small detail. They were ready to challenge this ruling, trying to say, hey, we can notify these voters and give them another chance to get it right before the election. But the GOP isn't having it. They want those ballots tossed out completely. This back and forth is just another sign of how heated things are getting. Finally, we've got a report from Bloomberg about the US Supreme Court rejecting the Republicans' appeal regarding the mail-in ballot issue. They had just won that previous battle, but this time the court ruled that voters without the required envelope could still be given a second chance to vote. Basically, they can submit a provisional ballot if there's an issue with their original mail-in ballot. The Republicans argued against this, saying it could create a precedent that lets too many people slide by without following the rules. With more Democrats voting by mail, allowing these second chances could really tilt the scales against Trump. So, it's clear that both parties are fighting tooth and nail over every inch in this election. These legal battles may not get as much buzz on social media, but they're way more impactful than all the noise you usually see online. From these three stories, it's obvious that legal competition is a crucial part of US elections. If you're watching the election and don't understand these legal battles, you're missing a big piece of the puzzle. Thirdly, let's dive into a big story from the Wall Street Journal today, which claims an exclusive scoop. The headline reads, "The Trump betting whale speaks out, I have absolutely no political agenda." The story is about this French trader who, after analyzing polls, has bet over $30 million on the outcome of the US election. This piece on the front page is a huge deal. If Trump wins, this guy could really shape the narrative, and if he loses, he might still play a key role in how things pan out. Why's that? Well, we've seen the mood shift in this election. Before Biden dropped out in August, polls generally favored Trump. But once Harris stepped in to take his place, things flipped, and she was ahead in the polls. However, by late September and into October, polls started showing Trump gaining ground again. A significant moment was when betting markets began swinging heavily in favor of Trump, largely thanks to this one trader who placed a massive $30 million bet on his victory. This kind of big bet can really change the game, as it often reflects broader public sentiment. So, why is this guy, who we'll call Theo, such a big player? Well, if Trump wins, Theo not only keeps his $30 million safe, but also stands to win an additional $80 million in payouts. That's a pretty big incentive. When asked why he placed such a huge bet, Theo explained that he believed all the polls underestimated Trump's chances. He even coined a phrase for it, the shy Trump voter effect. Basically, he thinks many Trump supporters are hesitant to share their voting intentions, which skews the polls. He backed this up by saying he noticed the same trend in the 2016 and 2020 elections. Polls consistently lowballed Trump's support. With that in mind, he decided to go all in with his $30 million bet. But what if Harris wins instead? Theo would lose that bet, which raises an interesting question: how much of a hit would that be for him? He clarified that this $30 million is a big chunk of his liquid assets, but he's not putting his entire life savings on the line. When asked about his confidence in Trump winning, Theo estimated the odds to be around 80% to 90%, but he's still wary of any last-minute news that could change everything. If there aren't any surprises, he's pretty sure he'll walk away with that $80 million. So, as we keep an eye on the US election, it's worth watching Theo, too. Will he snag that payout, or could he see his fortune evaporate overnight? It's definitely adding another layer of drama to the whole election spectacle. Lastly, let's check out a significant update from Reuters. The headline reads, South Korea minister says all scenarios under consideration for aiding Ukraine. On Friday, South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Tae-il was asked if Seoul might provide weapons to Ukraine in response to North Korea's support for Russia. He said they are considering all possible scenarios. Speaking through a translator at a press conference in Ottawa, Cho mentioned that Seoul will keep an eye on how involved North Korean troops are with Russia and what benefits North Korea might get in return. Just the day before, the US stated that North Korean forces are expected to join the fight against Ukraine in Russia's Kursk region in the coming days. So far, South Korea has sent non-lethal aid to Ukraine, like mine-clearing equipment, but has held off on any weapons requests from Kiev. When asked about the possibility of sending weapons, Cho replied that all options are on the table. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken also met with Cho and South Korean Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun on Thursday, discussing various responses to North Korea's troop deployment, though he didn't share any specifics. Now, here's my take on this news. North Korea's involvement in the Ukraine conflict is finally facing some consequences. With the US preoccupied with its elections, it might not be focusing on North Korea's actions right now, but that doesn't mean it won't take action later. I see South Korea's recent statements as a positive sign. North Korea's troops fighting for Russia could yield some significant advantages for them, especially if Russia decides to help North Korea militarily. But who would suffer the most from this arrangement? South Korea, without a doubt. So, analyzing this situation, it becomes clear that North Korea's actions could end up backfiring on them, especially for South Korea. I believe South Korea's shift in stance is a smart and necessary response. They can't just stand by while North Korea gets involved with Russia, which clearly poses a security risk for them. Supporting Ukraine aligns with South Korea's interests. As one veteran Republican senator pointed out, the US has spent only 5% of its military budget on Ukraine, yet it has effectively weakened Russia's military capabilities by about 50%. If South Korea were to do something similar and spend 5% of its military budget to aid Ukraine, it could potentially take out thousands of North Korean troops. This way, South Korea could weaken a direct threat without directly confronting North Korea. So, I see this change in South Korea's approach, along with potential future actions, as a very clever move. That's all for today. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more updates. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.